Baltimore still awaiting a verdict in the trial of a Squeegee kid charged with murder. Where the case stands now and how it's resonating across the city.
It's just so sad and on every level.
Some downtown property values are plummeting. An expert weighs in on what's behind the fall and the impact the city's economic struggles could have on the future. The Brooklyn Day mass shooting hitting home for one Baltimore woman.
Too many unanswered questions. Who did it?
First on Fox, she shares how the event was kept safe in the past and how the tragedy that night could have been prevented. 4 luxury cars stolen right out of a Maryland dealership, how they ended up in the port of Baltimore and the overseas trip they were set to make.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
We are following 2 breaking news stories tonight. A person is dead after a small plane crashes in Harford County. It happened along Old Level Road in Havre de Grace, just north of the Harford County Airport. Now, Harford County Fire and EMS says the pilot was the only one on board. The cause of the crash is under investigation. We are expecting an update from Harford County officials soon. We'll bring that to you as soon as it begins.
Also breaking tonight, a double shooting along Hollands Ferry Road in South Baltimore. A 20-year-old man was pronounced dead at the scene. A 21-year-old was taken to the hospital. Anyone with information is asked to call Baltimore Police or Metro Crime Stoppers. Well, in downtown Baltimore, 2 days of jury deliberations have come and gone, and still no verdict in the murder trial of a 16-year-old Squeegee kid. He's accused of shooting and killing Timothy Reynolds near the Inner Harbor a year ago. Good evening. I'm Kai Jackson. And I'm Mary Bubala. The jury will meet again in the morning today. They asked for the definition of a mistrial. The judge ordered them to keep working to reach a verdict. And as we head to the 3rd day of deliberation, both families are focused on finding justice.
They've waited a long time for justice. They can wait a little longer. They want to make sure that the jury has a chance to review all of the evidence.
If it's a hung jury, you know, we can live with that. It gives us a chance to regroup and try this case again.
Well, Fox 45 News has been in the courtroom since the trial began last week. Our team of reporters is looking into where the case stands now, how we got here, and what could come next. Our team coverage begins with Keith Daniels and the latest developments in a trial that is resonating with people across the city. Keith?
Well, Mary and Kai, we went out today and we were hard-pressed to find anyone who had not heard about this case. And tonight, their voices and waiting for the verdict. It's captured the attention of many residents across Baltimore City. First, the deadly incident.
I think they hit home for a lot of people.
Now, the trial of 16-year-old Tavon Scott, the Squeegee kid, accused of murder in the shooting death of Timothy Reynolds. The voices tonight of those following the case.
I know a guy attacked children. Children defended themselves, or someone defended children who were being attacked by a man who got out of a car with a bat.
It's just so sad and on every level.
After an explosive week-long trial, the case in the hands of the jury now. Jurors home tonight after deliberating roughly about 10 hours over 2 days so far. Residents watching and waiting for the verdict.
It's obviously hard.
Dharu Vignaraja is representing the family of Timothy Reynolds, who prosecutors say was gunned down by Scott, who was 14 years old at the time, at the corner of Light and Conway last year in July. An autopsy revealing Reynolds was shot once in the head, chest, and 3 times in the back.
What I can tell you is that the family is going to fight as long and as hard as it takes to make sure that justice is delivered here.
But perhaps no one is more anxiously awaiting an outcome than the 16-year-old defendant. Scott's attorney, Warren Brown, arguing the prosecution failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Scott was the killer.
He's on pins and needles, as they say. He's very anxious about it. His whole future hangs in the balance.
As Scott, like others, watch and wait and discuss.
Nobody deserves to be killed, but at the same time, nobody wants to be attacked while they're making some money.
Well, before sending the jury home today, the judge reminded jurors not to talk to anyone about this case and don't watch or read anything about this case. Jury deliberations resume tomorrow morning. We're live tonight. Keith Daniels, Fox 45 News.
Keith, thank you. Well, legal experts on both sides say they aren't surprised the jury hasn't reached a verdict, citing the complex issues involved in this case. On Fox 45 News today at 4, attorney Jeremy Eldridge provided some insight into what could be going on in that jury room.
Are these 12 individuals, are they arguing about, for instance, first-degree murder versus second-degree murder, second-degree murder versus manslaughter? Are they having a conversation about whether it was self-defense or what's called imperfect self-defense? Are they arguing about guilt versus innocence? They could be having such a wide spectrum of different factual arguments and conversations. We're going to have to wait to find out. And that's why if the judge is saying go back and deliberate, maybe they need to listen to each other a little bit more, have some more conversation, review the evidence, and come to that verdict.
Eldridge mentioned the self-defense argument. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell will take a closer look at when those laws apply in Maryland tonight at 10:30.
Some argue Timothy Reynolds' death was a turning point for the city, prompting initiatives like the Squeegee Collaborative Plan. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker takes us through the years of Squeegee incidents across Baltimore.
Baltimore City intersections where Squeegee kids were once commonplace. We're mostly free of the window washers today as jurors deliberate in the deadly case of Timothy Reynolds. The same day Reynolds was murdered, police say they fielded multiple calls involving Squeegee workers, including one from State Senator Antonio Hayes, who said he was approached by a group of kids at the same intersection and assaulted. But the troubled history of Squeegee workers dates back decades, frustration mounting over the years, leading to one violent encounter after another. In January 2020, a 52-year-old man was assaulted outside of his vehicle in downtown Baltimore. Shocking video sent to Fox 45 appears to show the man being hit repeatedly by a Squeegee kid. The following month, 2 Baltimore City police officers were attacked by 2 men after receiving a complaint for Squeegee workers. In August, another attack was caught on camera, allegedly showing Squeegee kids pelt a driver's car with rocks. Then in April 2021, a clash came with a death threat at MLK and Washington Boulevard. A woman in the car with her 2 children says when she told the Squeegee workers no, things took a violent turn for the worse.
He comes and throws the whole bottle of soap suds on my car.
In October, a woman was left bruised and bloodied at the intersection of President and Lombard after she says she was assaulted by a Squeegee kid.
Next thing I know, he is in my car beating me in the face with a stick.
At that same intersection the week prior, another man was allegedly hit multiple times by Squeegee kids.
He pool cued and popped me right in the face.
And last October, a Baltimore County physician was robbed by a Squeegee kid with police nearby. As the man handed the boy $2 bills, the Squeegee kid reportedly said, "No, I want more," and grabbed the driver's wallet, taking about $300 in cash.
I never thought that he would grab my wallet and run like a little punk.
And that wasn't the first time Squeegee kids have been accused of stealing money. There were several reports of the kids scamming people out of money using the Cash App last year. Police even going as far as to warn drivers of the theft in November. Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
And that brings us to our question of the day. Do you believe there's still a Squeegee problem in Baltimore? So far, 99% of people who voted say yes. To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Fox 45 News will continue to follow the developments in the case. We'll have live coverage from outside court tomorrow. Be sure to follow along with our reporting on air and online at foxbaltimore.com. 2 office buildings in downtown Baltimore recently valued at half of what they went for in previous sales. Now, these deals is raising questions about the driving factors behind a drop in business interests across the city. Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us with this troubling trend. Jeff?
You know, some of the city's most historic buildings are now worth just a fraction of what they were worth less than 10 years ago. And tonight, economists are telling us the cure is crystal clear. Like most major cities, this city has an underside, a sign of problems still unsolved.
I'm still trying to process what I saw.
Someone rocks at my car because I didn't want to give them no money.
These simple, senseless acts of violence in our city have to stop.
But those simple acts appear to be taking a drastic toll on those who visit downtown.
I very much enjoyed going to the National Harbor with my kids, and I'm too afraid to go back.
to those who do business downtown.
There's nobody down here, nobody. I mean, I don't care who it is. There's nobody in the area.
The price of the city's problems are becoming far more clear. Take, for instance, the 30-story building at 1 South Street downtown. 8 years ago, the building sold for $66 million. Last month, new owners purchased the building for $24 million, less than half of the purchase price in 2015. And it's not the only building whose value is on the decline. This building at 100 East Pratt Street, currently home to T. Rowe Price, had been appraised at $171.4 million. But an appeal this tax season brought its assessed value down to $93.65 million, a drop of more than 45%.
These property values are declining very rapidly, and unless we have new private capital and new imagination for what these buildings can be, you're going to continue to see those kinds of losses.
Economist Anaban Basu says the problems downtown are taking a deepening toll on businesses downtown who are desperately struggling for staff and safety.
Employers are hunting for talent. They need more staff. They want more human capital, and so they're going to go to places where workers feel comfortable working.
Basu says the shrinking property values will equal far less tax revenue, and the solution, however, is clear.
The only way for Baltimore City to get out of this quandary is to grow tax base, to add to the population of taxpayers, not subtract from that.
And Basu says the city must find ways to find attractiveness back to downtown Baltimore, and points to cities like Nashville and St. Petersburg, Florida, which he says are now attracting businesses, not losing them. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
All right, take a look at that radar shot, and what do you see? No more watches, no more warnings. So some good news as we head closer to the morning commute tomorrow. The nearest severe weather now over extreme southern Maryland and continuing to push away. Now we hand it over to a building heat wave. 78 degrees with some clouds at BWI. Low to mid 70s pretty much elsewhere across the area. And we start off tomorrow at 70 degrees. You want to take a run? That's the time to do it, as temperatures likely get into the low 90s for tomorrow afternoon. Could feel as hot as the low to mid 90s. And we could have near century mark readings on the way. Code orange air quality alert in effect for tomorrow. I'll let you know when we could threaten records in a couple of minutes.
Jonathan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 10, Fox 45 News learning about a rash of carjackings across the region, how cars stolen from Bethesda ended up in a shipping container at the Port of Baltimore bound for Africa. Mayor Brandon Scott expected to nominate a new fire chief tomorrow. The job has been open for 7 months. A look at how we got to this point. And right after the break, Fox 45 News getting new insight on the Brooklyn Day block party 3 weeks after the mass shooting. A look at what the event used to be from a woman who helped organize it for years. Well, the search is still on for suspects more than 3 weeks after the Brooklyn mass shooting. Baltimore police looking into the possibility of at least 10 shooters that night. 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez and 20-year-old Kylas Fagbemi lost their lives. 28 others were shot.
So far, only one arrest has been made. A 17-year-old is facing weapons and riot charges after social media video appears to show him pulling a gun out of a backpack before the shooting.
Now, Fox 45 News continues to investigate why more wasn't done sooner, as a former Brooklyn Day organizer says the block party wasn't always like this.
Rosalie Parks is sharing fond memories of what Brooklyn Day used to be. Mackenzie Frost has the story you're seeing first on Fox.
These photo albums are full of memories.
Those were the good old days. Stuff like that didn't happen in Brooklyn.
Rosalie Pack called Brooklyn Homes her home for 44 years, and she was in charge of almost every party.
We used to serve Thanksgiving dinner. We would have Halloween parties. We had, of course, the Brooklyn Day.
Smiling faces, families, a parade.
Brooklyn Day was the highlight of the year.
She says when she was in charge, she worked with the other people in Brooklyn Homes, as well as the Housing Authority of Baltimore City, to block off streets and organize the massive event.
Like I said, it's just one big old fun-filled day. 5 o'clock and they was out of there. They didn't have to go home, but they had to get out of there.
Packing up by 5, very different than the recent years of Brooklyn Day, partying stretching well into the night. One newspaper clipping, a little faded by time, shows former Mayor Kurt Schmoke at Brooklyn Day. The date, July 13th, 1988. 35 years later, to the date.
Good evening and welcome to the Public Safety and Government Operations Committee meeting.
City Council demanding to know how 30 people could have been shot, 2 young people killed in Baltimore's largest mass shooting.
Too many unanswered questions. Who did it?
Pack eventually moved out of Brooklyn Homes in 2015. She says she had some issues with management and a desire for a home with a balcony, but also drug activity and crime creeping into the housing development over the years.
Drugs had been going on for probably a year before I knew anything about it.
Fox 45 News uncovering the man who rented a U-Haul at this year's Brooklyn Day and rented the supplies for the party, the same person facing multiple charges accused of dealing drugs in Brooklyn Homes this year. Pack says the organization of the party now is part of the problem.
My biggest question is why would they take it upon themselves to do it on, instead of having it at the community center? It's a lot of responsibility. And having it in the community center, you got the manager, you got the service coordinator,
sure,
you got housing authority, because some of them always came. Having it off-site, I just don't see as a good idea.
Sources tell Fox 45 News investigators found bullet casings on scene from as many as 16 guns. More than 3 weeks later, Baltimore police have not arrested anyone for actually pulling the triggers. Even though it's been a decade since Pack lived in Brooklyn, what happened there hits home for her.
Just so sad.
And she says she's hopeful someone who was there to celebrate the community speaks up about what they saw during an event with such history.
It's going to hit home. Something's going to hit them personally, and then they're going to sing like a songbird. That's what I'm hoping.
The Housing Authority of Baltimore City says the tenant council hasn't been active for a few years. That's the organization that would have normally organized the Brooklyn Day block party. Now HAB says they have a few people who say they're ready to participate. In the newsroom, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, Fox 45 News is pressing for answers about Safe Streets' response to the mass shooting. The mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement admitting Safe Streets workers were at the block party before the shooting happened and did mediate some conflicts, but did not tell police about potential threats. During a city council hearing earlier this month, it was revealed Monzi had not yet reviewed those mediations, and the council could not get straight answers on how mediations are tracked or reported. So Fox 45 News pressed the mayor on that last week, asking for a blank copy of the form workers used to fill out following mediations. We also want to know what defines a mediation, who oversees the documentation of the conflicts, and what protocols are in place to ensure better communication among agencies about a potential threat. Those are just some of the questions we have. The mayor's office hasn't answered them nor handed over the form that we asked to look at. Now, Fox 45 News has heard from some city council members who say they want answers from Monzi. Monzi. One council member even going so far as to say the city should withhold funding until those questions are answered.
Right now, I think that until we start to see transparency in data, I think that money should be held to a halt.
We have a responsibility to the citizens of Baltimore to hold the city agencies that the taxpayers are paying for accountable. And when you have an agency like Monzi that's role is to oversee the public-private public safety partnerships, and they're not doing that, there needs to be some clarity as to what exactly it is that they are doing.
The Fox 45 is also asking how the city is making sure employees aren't committing crimes while working for Safe Streets or Monzi. Fox 45 News has found a few instances of employees getting in trouble with the law, including Ronald Alexander. In his plea agreement, Alexander confessed to taking drugs from people in the community while working for Safe Streets. Cases like that fuel sharp criticism for the program.
Yes, my belief is that our city government is financing a criminal enterprise. I believe that within my heart. Our city government is so invested in it that it's turning a blind eye to what it really is.
Many of our viewers want answers as well. In a Fox 45 viewer poll last week, we asked, should the mayor answer questions about Safe Streets? 91% of those who voted said yes. You can find all of those questions that we have about the Safe Streets program and our original investigation on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Well, coming up, Ravens training camp starts tomorrow. We got a look at some of the team arriving in Owings Mills today. Why One Star says this year is about unfinished business.
And severe storms out, big heat moving in, and it all starts with a code orange air quality alert for tomorrow. Baltimore City, southern Baltimore County, southeastern Harford County, Cecil County, and Anne Arundel County, all under that air quality alert. And again, a code orange means air pollution concentrations are unhealthy for sensitive groups, including children, elderly, and anyone that has pre-existing respiratory issues is going to have to limit your time outside. It's hot tomorrow, but you wait. Temperatures could be threatening the century mark. I'll let you know when in my Weather Authority forecast.
Hunter Biden is set to plead guilty tomorrow to a pair of misdemeanor tax charges and enter a diversion program to drop a felony gun charge.
But some people are asking the judge to reject his plea deal. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the story.
You've got IRS whistleblowers.
House Speaker Kevin McCarthy elevating threats of impeaching President Biden.
When more of this continues to unravel, it rises to the level of impeachment inquiry.
These comments are the most direct yet from the Speaker regarding impeachment. According to McCarthy, the House dug up enough evidence through their investigations into allegations the Bidens were selling political influence to foreigners to warrant a deeper probe into the president's role.
What an impeachment inquiry does, it gives us the apex of the power of Congress for Republicans and Democrats to gather the information that they need.
Republicans have obtained financial records showing the president's son, Hunter Biden, and brother James Biden received millions from China and Romania. Documents show cuts set aside for someone called the big guy. Multiple sources allege the big guy is Joe Biden. The White House standing by the president's statement he had nothing to do with these deals.
The president was never in business with his son. I just don't have anything else to add.
Former Biden family business associate, however, saying the president had direct involvement.
Hunter and Jim Biden were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's involvement secret.
What are the big differences that an impeachment inquiry can achieve that, say, the House Oversight investigation might not be able to?
When that shifts to associating the word impeachment with the process, the powers don't necessarily change, and they might give the committee additional powers, but not necessarily. It sets the House and the Senate on a particular path that we hope we never have to go through as a country.
Another Biden business raising questions, Hunter Biden's artwork. He sold at least $1.3 million worth. A national art critic telling Politico it is absolutely 100% certain that what is being sold is the Biden name. One of the buyers, LA-based investor Elizabeth Naftali, receiving a presidential appointment from Joe Biden 8 months later. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Ahead at 10:30, stolen luxury cars discovered at the Port of Baltimore just before their shipment overseas. What this heist reveals about how port employees search for smuggled goods.
And Maryland hemp farmers are suing the state over new recreational marijuana licenses. Tonight, Governor Wes Moore responds. An update now to the breaking news we brought you at the top of the hour. One person is dead after a plane crash in Havre de Grace. Hartford County officials saying the plane crashed into a field just after 7 tonight. No one else was in the plane and no one on the ground was hurt.
And the FAA is now on the scene and the NTSB is expected tomorrow. Those two agencies will continue the investigation. Crews are expected to be on the scene throughout the night.
Well, we are following 3 more big stories at 10:30. It's arrival day in Owings Mills as the Ravens prepare for the grueling stretch of training camp. Why one star says there's unfinished business this time around.
Clarification on Maryland's duty to retreat law, what it means, and how that law could be applied in the murder trial of a Squeegee teen.
And luxury cars are stolen from a Maryland dealership in the middle of the night. How thieves pulled off the heist in a matter of minutes. Well, those same cars turning up in Baltimore months later, just as they are about to be shipped overseas.
Mitch Blocker from our Sinclair sister station in Washington, D.C. takes us through the last-minute discovery.
It's just after 4 a.m. in Bethesda. More than a dozen high-end Mercedes sit on the showroom floor. It doesn't take thieves even 30 seconds to break through the front door. Surveillance video captures their nerve and precision, watching them maneuver and speed 4 cars out of the showroom. Their biggest prize, a $200,000 Mercedes G-Wagon.
Your first emotion is anger and frustration.
Jim Willard's brand new cars are gone in under 15 minutes. They join the other 55,000 cars burglarized in Montgomery County's streets, driveways, parking lots, and car dealerships, all in the last 3 years. Willard has a hunch where they're headed.
Port of Baltimore, from my understanding, is one of the hottest beds of stolen vehicles leaving the country.
Customs and Border agents gave the 7 News I-Team exclusive access to America's busiest auto port.
We did just pop this one container earlier today. It's got
the one down here?
Yes, sir.
The inspections done on this dock are agents' last chance to catch stolen property before it leaves American shores. Minutes after we stepped onto the dock, we see a $125,000 Cadillac Escalade pulled from its shipping container by a forklift. This is the only way to move a stolen vehicle without its keys.
This vehicle has no keys, was
Correct.
going to West Africa.
Correct. Brand new 2022 Cadillac Escalade.
There's more than cars inside these shipping containers. Customs agents painstakingly sift through all sorts of items, from electronics to hair dryers to a paper cutting board.
You never know what you're going to see.
It's the only way to get to the VIN number on the dashboard and confirm a car is stolen. No room is wasted. Why ship 2 cars when propping one up on a homemade wooden lift lets you fit 3?
800,000+ cars come through here.
Yep.
How many of them can you check?
Well, we can check as many as we have to try to disrupt these transnational criminal organizations.
But Baltimore's port director told us his 100 customs agents don't always open every container. He says they do check container manifests and look for an excuse to look inside.
They say they're sending out a Honda Accord, and we x-ray it, and then we see a pickup truck. Obviously, red flag for us.
During our interview, one of those red flags turned into a gold mine. This container's manifest says inside is 1 car bound for West Africa.
How many are in there?
So there's three brand new Mercedes in there with the approximate value of that container. It's $400,000.
Inside, we found 2 of the Mercedes stolen off the Bethesda dealer's showroom floor. The thieves didn't bother to take off the dealer plates. It took a few weeks, but after clearing customs, we were back in Bethesda to watch the stolen car's homecoming.
I couldn't believe it because I figured, like I said, these are long gone. So
I'm really happy
you
they're
truly
back.
are the man with this.
And that was Mitch Blocker reporting. No one has been arrested for stealing the cars yet, but authorities believe the thieves are part of a bigger car ring theft. 2 of the cars in that shipping container were from Bethesda, as Mitch mentioned, but the 3rd was a stolen car from Georgia.
Governor Wes Moore's administration is responding to a lawsuit against the state in which the Maryland Hemp Coalition argues the state is monopolizing the marijuana license industry. In a statement to Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost, the governor's office says Maryland's adult use cannabis market is providing continuity for businesses already operating under the medical marijuana program, while also adding new regulations for health, safety, and security for recreational use. But hemp vendors argue they're being pushed out of business, saying new state guidelines are limiting what they can sell without a license.
My clients who've been lawfully selling these products for years are suddenly in a position where they are being told they can't sell their products without a license, and yet the obstacles to getting a license are nearly insurmountable.
Now, the lawsuit also claims the license lottery system is discriminatory. Round one of the licenses are geared toward social equity applicants, defined by the state as living in areas disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. Earlier this year, Fox 45 News reviewed campaign finance reports for some of the key lawmakers who sponsored the legislation. Records show cannabis-connected donors gave thousands of dollars to the four bill sponsors in the days leading up to the 2023 legislative session. You can find more on that on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Well, tomorrow, Mayor Brendan Scott will nominate a new fire chief. The position has been open for 7 months. Former Chief Niles Ford resigned in December following a report on that deadly Stricker Street fire. 3 firefighters died in that incident back in January of 2022. The report highlighted the failures that led to the tragedy, including 41 pages of findings and recommendations. One of those recommendations, a change of culture inside the department. Fox 45 News spoke with the president of the Firefighters Union when Ford's departure was announced. He laid out what the top priority should be for the next person in charge.
Reestablishing morale in this department, stability. That is what this department's been lacking for many, many years now, is the stability. We have people coming and going left and right. We need to put an end to that. We need people to come here, stay for a career.
The fire department is one of a few city agencies that have been without a permanent leader. Rich Worley has been serving as the acting police commissioner for the Baltimore Police Department for about a month. His confirmation hearings won't start until next month. The mayor announced today that he and the acting commissioner will hold a series of community engagement meetings during the confirmation process in August. And it's still not clear who will lead the mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. Interim Director Stephanie Mavronis has been serving in that role since former Director Shantae Jackson stepped down at the end of June. DPW Director Jason Mitchell stepped down last month, leaving that agency without a permanent leader as well. Stay with Fox 45 News. We'll have complete coverage of tomorrow's fire chief nomination. On air and online, you can find more information on the city's vacant positions on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Well, as we wait for a verdict in the murder trial of a 16-year-old Squeegee kid accused of shooting and killing a Baltimore driver, arguments of self-defense versus duty to retreat have been key factors for the jury to consider. Fox 45's Alexa Ashwell looks into the laws on the books here in Maryland and when they apply.
Self-defense laws justify a person's use of lethal force in order to prevent imminent death or serious bodily harm. Maryland is one of nearly a dozen states in the U.S. that imposes a duty to retreat. Law expert Kirk Nachman explains.
Before you can exercise a fatal level of self-defense, you have to at least have an attempt or be able to attempt to retreat from the situation.
Nachman says the duty to retreat applies when someone is in public, including when in your car, and differs based on the facts of the situation.
If someone has a firearm and they can reach out and hit you at a greater distance, you obviously would have less of a duty to retreat or turn your back on the person with a firearm to run away, for example. If someone has a bat or a knife and you're already 10 feet away from them and they can't reach out and touch you in that moment, but you still are defending yourself and you're in reasonable fear of imminent bodily harm, you would have at least a duty to attempt to retreat.
That example closely mirroring one of the key questions a jury was posed with in deciding the teen Squeegee worker's fate in the Timothy Reynolds murder trial. But what about when not in public, rather inside your home or business? Nachman says Maryland has a castle doctrine.
In other words, your home is your castle. You don't have